Welcome to the Dangerously Divine podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Loren, entrepreneur, life coach, and your new spiritual bestie. We dive deep into all things feminine magnetism, mindset, and empowerment. Prepare to unlock your full potential and activate your feminine gifts. If you're an ambitious woman who's ready to stop playing small, step into your feminine power, and claim a life beyond your wildest dreams, then you're in the right place. So go ahead and turn up the volume. You're about to hear juicy stories, inspirational advice, and transformational tips that'll help you up-level your life and align with the divine goddess within you. More self-confidence, freedom, and abundance are all just a play away. Thank you for listening and enjoy this episode. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Dangerously Divine podcast. Today, I'm joined by Laura Ordile from Highland's Hypnosis. Thank you so much for joining us, Laura.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I appreciate it.
So we have never had a hypnosis on the show. I'm really excited to talk to you. And I know that you have an amazing intuition, and I'm so excited for you to teach us, how to maybe use our own intuition. And you're an expert in astrology and hypnosis. So why don't you tell me a little about your journey?
Yeah. My journey started kind of on the woo side. So it started in the intuitive and astrology side of things. And I've done that for a long time. And it was kind of funny because, we all have intuition. And I noticed these things happening kind of on and off throughout life. And I finally decided one day to sit down and figure out, well, is this a real thing or not? And so I sat down with a book that had these exercises in it, and I started doing them, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is a real thing. You have that moment of, oh man, that's interesting. And so I kind of dove into that and started exploring and met some people through that, doing readings and things. And of course, all of that was a little scary getting started, as it always is when you start something new. But I loved astrology all my life too. And I always thought it was something that there was too much. I would never be able to learn it. There's so much to astrology, so many different directions you can take. I'm still amazed. But I found the right person at the right time who really taught it to me kind of in little chunks. And so I just was amazed at how useful it is, how accurate it is, how much fun it is too, right? And the fun part is awesome because everybody wants to have fun. But it's super important to me that the things that I do are useful and practical as well. And so what's kind of funny about on that journey, a few years back, I decided, I do kind of maybe I just need to have one thing that is absolutely practical that I can somehow blend in or do for people that maybe don't do it. And so, of course, everybody laughed because it was hypnosis
Right.
that I stepped into. And a lot of people laugh at that because they're like, hypnosis was your practical? It's like, well, yeah, that for me it was. And so I dove into hypnosis and loved all of it. And NLP, hypnosis, I did some life coaching stuff along with it. And then I really dug even deeper into hypnosis this last year and really started working in at a deeper level to kind of get at all of the little root causes of things. I've been working with people with trauma, with PTSD, with CPTSD, and it's been a gift. It's been a gift for me and them because I'm from a military family, and it's super important to me to be able to give back in some way in that area. And I have people close to me that have dealt with trauma and PTSD. And actually, most people, not even just military, have some form of trauma in their life, whether they realize it or not. And so learning at that scale, learning at that depth has been so incredible to work with people in so many different ways. And so it's been such a fun journey and so fascinating and interesting. And I love all of the things that the subconscious can do. So
Yeah, I'm so happy to have connected with you. I need to know the name of that book, if you remember, that kind of sparked your interest in learning more about your intuition, because I think something with exercises sounds really fun. Do you know the name of that book that you mentioned earlier?
Oh, yes, I do. It's Practical Intuition by Laura Day. And she actually has, probably 4 or 5 books. She has Practical Intuition and Success, and then another one that's called How to Rule the World from Your Couch. And those all have exercises in them. I always think the best one to start with is the Practical Intuition one.
Awesome. Thank you for
there.
that. There's so many people I talk to on this podcast, and so many of my clients have trouble channeling their intuition or knowing when it's their intuition talking or if it's their ego coming in. So yeah, I'm definitely going to check out that book.
Yeah, it's a good one, and it's a great one to really kind of get you going in discerning that and in being aware of what it feels like when it is your intuition. And when you become aware of your intuition and how it feels, you'll know really quickly whether it is ego or just a thought or just whatever, or if it is that little bit of connection, that first sense that steps in. Some people call intuition their sixth sense. I say it's the first sense because it comes in and then it uses all of our other senses to provide the
Right, to give us
information.
that proof that we need sometimes. Yeah, I kind of laughed too when
Yeah.
you said, you wanted something more practical on your journey and you became a hypnotist. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what hypnosis is and what it means to hypnotize someone?
Hypnosis, I'm not even sure anybody really knows what it is, but it's a little bit of, it's kind of a relaxing state that gets the conscious mind out of the way so that we can go in and basically have a conversation with the unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind is pretty much the bus driver in life. It runs everything. It takes us everywhere that we want to, that we're going in life. And it has an established route, and that route comes from a foundation that was put in place probably just before we were born until about 7 years old. And so all of the information that's kind of our basis of how we live our life was put into place then. And it's a lot, I guess another comparison would be like a hard drive. All of the coding is put in and all of that stuff is put in there at that time. And then of course things are added to it along the way throughout life. But the thing to remember is that everything is still operating unless you go in and change it on that foundational programming that was put into place. And so what happens is sometimes when you are trying to make a change in your life, it comes along and it finds all of a sudden that there's this conflict. It's like having a conflict in the coding. It's one line's telling it to do this, and you're entering another line saying, no, we want to do this. But it's still got that base programming in there. And until you go in and do a reset and kind of take out the things you no longer need, sometimes add in the things that you do, it's not going to allow you to do what you want to do. I shouldn't say that. You can force it eventually, but it's going to be a lot harder. It's going to take a lot longer, and it might be kind of like it fluctuates where you succeed and then it pulls back, or, you gain all the money and then you lose it. That type of a situation where it doesn't stick.
Right.
So that's why it's so important to go in and deal with all of those things at that subconscious level, to really go in and say, hey, I do want to make changes. I want to operate things a little bit differently, not like my 5-year-old self. And let's change some of that, update that, and really clear things in and put things in and that are going to allow things to speed up, to progress, to go in the way that I want them to. And that's what hypnosis
Okay.
does.
Yeah,
That makes
totally.
sense?
That actually made the most sense. I love that you compared it to a hard drive. That's very easy to understand. Is that something, that foundation that you talk about, being kind of brought into our early childhood, is that something that develops through our parents or, the generations before us? Or does that develop as we're children kind of navigating the world?
That develops from all of that kind of. So it develops because we're in the learning process. It's like piling in all of this stuff that we need for the years ahead. And so it's developing through what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're experiencing. It's developing all of those things and putting the information kind of like, loading in a program. And so it's loading that program based on all of those things that are around you. And so it might be that you're going to hear all of these things from your family, and that's what's going to kind of be the foundation for your beliefs going
Mm-hmm.
forward. And that's how it happens. And even when you say, a lot of kids will be like, "Oh, no, I don't want to be like my family, or I don't want to be like my dad, or whatever." And I don't believe that. Well, maybe you had something else somewhere outside that overrode that in those young years that changed your beliefs. But maybe you do have that belief installed in there. Maybe you're not aware of it. And as you move forward in life, it's going to pop up somewhere along the line. So we really have to kind of notice how our lives are going, what's happening in them. Are we having the success? Are we having the health and the wealth and the happiness that we truly want? Or are there things that are going on that are really blocking us? And I'm not talking about day-to-day adventures. We're human. We're living a life. We're going to have day-to-day adventures. But you might have almost like a glass ceiling or something where you're butting your head against the wall and you just can't get to that next step. Maybe that's in your business. Maybe that's in your financial goals where you just can't get there. I would guess, and actually do more than guess, I would probably really reliably say, well, there's more than likely a belief in there that's tucked down deep, back in that coding somewhere that is saying something about that is saying, no, we're not going to let that happen. Because overall, your subconscious, the very core of what it is going to do for you, is it's going to protect you. It's going to keep you alive. So that's its number one priority. Now, whether you're alive and not so happy or alive and maybe not doing as well as you want, that's secondary because you're alive and it figures, awesome, I'm doing my job. And you're like, oh my goodness, I'm floundering over here and I can't make the changes. But as far as it's concerned, it's a success because you're
Right.
living. And so to acknowledge sometimes in life when things take a turn, or maybe there's something you've dealt with all your life, maybe you've had anxiety all your life. More than likely, there's something that was anchored in for you somewhere along the line that is bringing that up. Maybe it amplifies at certain times, or it goes away and kind of comes back, or something like that. But you don't have to live with that forever just because it's been there. Or maybe you have something that pops up out of the blue and all of a sudden you're having panic attacks and you don't even know why. And another thing that can happen with the subconscious too is that as you're growing up, remember that it's protecting you. So as you're growing up, you might have an incident, say when you're 2 years old. And it can be as simple as your parents having maybe a big argument. For that little 2-year-old cell, that's a really big deal. That's kind of traumatic. And so there's part of your subconscious mind that steps in and goes, I've got you. I'm going to protect you. So it kind of creates this other little version of you to do that, to bring that part of yourself out that is going to protect you. And then you kind of go forward and move on. And then maybe when you're 10 years old, you're in school and you get bullied. And here comes again, a creation of this version that you need to get through this time, and you move on. And these little parts of yourself are created. What happens sometimes is those little parts of yourself get
Mm.
stuck back in that instance. So they're basically living in a loop of that difficulty. And you have all of those little tiny versions of yourself still inside you. They're in your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind created them, and they're still living in there. And so think about having maybe a teenager that had a real difficult time with something, who is in a real difficult situation constantly. They're going to get fed up. They're going to get annoyed. They're going to come at you. And teenagers can be pretty vicious. Now, remember, they're living in your subconscious mind where all the control is. So they might step up and go, you know what? Enough is enough. I need some relief. I need to get out of this situation. I either need to be cleared or I need to be reintegrated. And so it starts acting up. That might be all of a sudden you have chronic fatigue. All of a sudden you have IBS. All of a sudden you have these emotional roller coasters that you just absolutely don't understand. All of those things can be from something that happened a very long time ago. It's simply asking for your attention right now. I compare it sometimes to a, excuse me, a little puppy. We all love puppies, and puppies are awesome, and they come up to you and they want attention. And if you're busy, you're not giving attention. If you never give that little puppy attention, even though it's asking for it, it's going to go off and chew your
Right.
shoes and pee on your rug and do all those things you don't want to do. But if you give it attention, you're going to have that lifelong friend, that buddy that's right there helping you do all the
Yeah.
things.
That's
So, that's a little course on the
No,
subconscious.
I love that. And I think it's I mean, so many good nuggets of information there. I love what you said about like our subconscious, as different iterations of ourself when we were younger. I have a story, not my story, but my mom recently did hypnosis because she has a terrible fear of bugs. And, she lives alone and she's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I can't kill these bugs by myself. And I like imagine a bug and then I can't go to sleep at night. And she'll see a bug and she'll literally like cry. And I was like, okay, well, this is something in your subconscious. I think you should work it out with yourself. And, there's different therapeutic modalities. And she went with hypnosis and her subconscious came through and actually showed her a memory she had when she was like 2 or 3 years old of being stung by a bee while like taking a family picture or something outside. And like she remembered her parents being like, oh, be quiet, like whatever. And, just telling her to like, smile for the picture. And she was this inner child crying because she got stung by a bee and she, couldn't be heard or seen by, anyone. No one was acknowledging the pain that she was feeling and like was able to like have that memory from her childhood because it was buried so deep in her subconscious. And she's like, whoa. And I just think that's the coolest thing. And now that she kind of knows it, I don't know if she's stopped being afraid of bugs. It's a rough subject to bring up still. But I think it's really interesting now that she knows it to kind of like can work on it. We have to, awareness is number one to fixing something about yourself.
Absolutely. And the interesting part is that uh, so the great part is, yes, you go back and you get to the root of it. And like having a sliver deep down inside of your hand or your foot, when you pull that out, it's like, oh, that's relief. There's, it's hurt to touch it. It's not sore. It's not throbbing. It's not doing any of those things. And that's what happens when you go back and you dig something like that out. And what's interesting is from that point, even if she does still have like some lingering stuff going on, there are other ways to go in and basically, I would say, take away the emotional connection to instances like that where she had the fear and the fright of that bee being stung. Maybe there was another time where she had a confrontation with a bug, and they can go in and do a little bit of work with the subconscious. And what happens is you still have the memory, but it takes away all of the emotional difficulty and connection to it. So it's like, oh yeah, that happened, but you don't have the emotion that goes, oh my goodness,
Right.
and the fear doesn't kick in, and so it really kind of severs that connection, which is really cool. And the other thing there is that sometimes when people go back, they might not even remember it, but they'll come out and go, oh, well, I don't know what happened, but I feel good. I'm doing okay. Something's changed. And again, our subconscious knows. Our subconscious knows us obviously better than anyone because it's a part of us. And so it knows that if there's something really difficult, maybe there's some kind of abuse that happened, at a very young age that you're not aware of right now, it's not going to just pop that visual into your mind when you're going through this stuff. It's going to find a way for you to work it out in a way that says, but I've still got you. So you can go in and clear those things in a way that's not painful. It doesn't make you relive anything. I don't even have to know sometimes anything that is kind of going on for you. I need to know, what is it that were the symptoms? What are the symptoms that you want to deal with? And from there, we'll go in and clear things. But it's basically content free. in the work. I don't have to know your life history, which I think a lot of people are really grateful for. Um, because everything has its place. And I think a lot of the modalities out there are amazing. And there's more than one, all roads can lead to Rome at some point. But when you have some of those things like the fears, or you have the memories that need to kind of come out from a long time ago, sometimes talk therapy isn't going to do that. Talk therapy is amazing because sometimes you need someone to talk to. Absolutely. But when you have something like that little stuck thing that's down in there really causing pain, you don't need to spend 5 years in therapy trying to dig it out when you can go into the source that knows where everything is inside of you and say, hey, we're looking for the source of this. Can you help? And it goes, oh, I got you. And it goes and does that. And then you come out and you're like, oh my goodness, it's amazing. It's
Yeah,
amazing. It's
I
kind of
love
magical.
that. We definitely have to do a hypnosis session together. I'm all for it now. Um, you mentioned about how our subconscious is trying to keep us alive, and sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean thriving and doing all of the things that we want to do. Personally, I think Gay Hendricks, who wrote The Big Leap, explains it really well as like the upper limit problem. I don't know if you're familiar with that book. But if any listeners are not, the upper limit is about when you think you're going to do something big,
Got it.
and then like everything like comes to turmoil. And this really happens in all of our lives. I know for me personally, it happens all the time. If I have like a big meeting or a presentation or something like that, I'm really excited about a trip coming up, but I'm also like a little bit anxious about it, I will get sick and like have to cancel whatever I'm doing. And that's described as like this upper limit problem because it's like our subconscious is like trying to keep us safe, but is also like not expanding outward and like helping us reach for better and, expand and grow. So, how can we kind of train our subconscious to help us achieve a higher level of success if that's what we want?
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening. When you do get sick, it's your subconscious saying, "Oh, okay, well, we're gonna do this for her," and that's what it's thinking. We're gonna do this for you, even though it's this physical difficulty. You're getting sick. You're not feeling good. All of those things. It's doing its job, and again, it's not expanding because it's based on that foundational programming that was put into place. And so the first thing to do, which is usually the last for people, is to initiate the conversation through hypnosis with your subconscious, to go in and to clear those things. You don't have to know what they are. I don't have to know what they are. Your subconscious knows. It absolutely knows. And when you go in and have that connection at that level and you say, let's clear out these things, let's get that thorn out of there and move forward and open up everything. It's kind of like if you think about, you have a big bush that's kind of growing and you can't go pick all the little leaves off of it. It would take forever. When you're trying to get rid of the bush, plus then you still have the branches, and then you still have the root. And maybe you can even clip the branches off. Again, you still have the root. It's going to grow back. It's going to be there. It's going to cause an issue. So you go in and you pull it out at the very root. So, and then what happens is all of those things clear that are attached to that maybe have sprung out and created all those little branches. So it might not be that it's simply opening the door to success. It could be that it clears up the chronic fatigue. It clears up that issue of you always, getting sick before a big adventure. It clears up the anxiety of speaking in front of people. It clears up the headaches that you have. It's amazing. I actually have worked with people. I just finished working with a client the other day, and we went through and I had a list of 17 symptoms that she was experiencing. And they were big symptoms. We're talking about like hypervigilance, IBS, um, anxiety, panic attacks, all of those things. And 6 weeks, I have a program that I do that's 6 to 7 weeks. And at 6 weeks, they were cleared. Those things were done. And it was amazing. I was like, wow. I was in wow. And I'm the
Right.
one doing this and working with the people. And it's just like, so incredible. And working with someone else right now who we've just gotten started and I have 2 pages of symptoms for her. But it's all a part of it's like the leaves on that little bush that we're working with. So I know that through the process, we're gonna go down and pull it out at
Mhm.
its roots. And the interesting thing is that it's not just about getting rid of things. Hypnosis is really wonderful at adding in and turning up the things we need, especially in business and in life when we need to feel more confident, when we need motivation, energy, clarity, when we need to really feel like we can stand up and have the conversation that we need to have and do the things that we need to do for the success in our life. And so we can add those things in and boost those things through hypnosis too. And oftentimes, that's a really kind of important part. The other kind of program that I do takes all of that into consideration. I do a little bit of that, absolutely, in that 6 to 7 weeks that I do, because I'm not going to just go in and pull everything out and go, okay, you're welcome. Hey, we add in some of the things that you need too, but then it's like living in a different way. All of a sudden, your life is not being run by your panic attacks. Your life is not limited by your headaches, and so you have this whole new way of living. And it's kind of like, oh, I don't really know exactly how to navigate this or what to do. And so by continuing on with a little bit of other work through the subconscious, whether it's hypnosis or NLP or something else, we can go in and kind of reset you at that 0 point that you're at now and go, okay, let's open the doors and get you started on the right path in the direction that you want to go. And that's
Yeah.
super fun for me to watch when people do that too. It's just like, wow, wow, the doors are open. There's not any obstacles, or if they are, it's almost like, oh yeah, okay, that happened. And then you move on. It doesn't even anchor in any way, which is such a difference in how you
Right.
navigate the world.
I love that you do a 6-week program because I think it is important to have that like follow-up feedback. And I was going to ask, is it like one thing that you just do once and then, everything is kind of fixed, or, you have to keep doing it? So I love that you answered that without me having to ask it. Um, I know like other modalities, I'm a Reiki master, for example, and we learn in Reiki classes that, people have to be open to energy healing in order to receive it. And, you can send Reiki energy to wherever. But like if that person is not, open to it or, doesn't really believe in it, then it's likely not going to have much of an effect. Um, and so I want to know, like, is hypnosis something that everyone can do? Or is it one of those things that you have to believe in it for it to work?
Yeah. You don't have to believe in it. I don't care if you believe in that I'm making it all up or you're making it all up or anything like that. What you have to, where you need to be is you have to be ready for the change. You have to be at the point that says, all right, I want this change. This is important to me. You can't be at the, I'm just here to see if, you can change me and do this or do that. And I don't really care if it works or not. I don't want to work with those people. I want to work with the people that say, I I need this change. I need something to be different in my life. Even if they don't know what it is, even if it's like I feel like there's this invisible wall in front of me, or I feel like there's this thing that's just holding me back, or they're in frustration, or they just can't deal with any of those things and they're like, "Yep, I'm ready to go. I need to make this change." And or it can be the person that comes and says, I am really ready to move in a new direction. I'm going to take my business in this new direction. I'm going to go in this way, and I want to make sure that there's nothing in my way. I want to go in and do that reset. I want to clear things. I want to, really turn up the good things in my life because I'm ready for change, and I want to do it in the way that is going to serve me best from the beginning because I don't want the obstacle. I don't want to have to be stuck. I don't want to have my body, come come at me for any reason. I want a clear way ahead. Those are amazing people to work with because they're ready, they're proactive, and they're going to do the thing and they're ready.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Good for you for being selective like that. Um, do you do hypnosis online, or is it something that only works in person?
Well, actually, I do all my work online. I've only done maybe a handful of sessions in person, and that was just with people I know, locally here. And but all my work, I deal with people all over the world. I have a lot of people I work with in the UK and other areas, and all over, of course, the States, everywhere, and Canada, all kinds of places. It's so fun to find out where people are from when I start to get connected with them because I just never know. I never know. They might live in Ireland, they might live in Scotland or somewhere else, and I get a kick out of it, and I love doing it online. And some people might be worried. Well, what if the connection drops and I'm stuck in hypnosis? It doesn't happen. You're not
Oh
going to
my
get
God, I
stuck
didn't
in
even think about
hypnosis.
that.
And if you ever have that concern, well, some people do. Some people go, oh my gosh, and if you ever think about that, or you're working with somebody, you just tell them up front, and all they have to do is, while they're talking to you and kind of putting you under, they give you a little bit of a suggestion that says, if anything happens, if it's disconnected, you just wait for a beat of 5 or 10, and then you will bring yourself up out of hypnosis easily without any issues, and that's what happens. So it's not anything that is difficult. And people also tend to worry about, why my mind goes so crazy, and what if I have to itch, or what if I have to, what if I have to move a little? It's fine. It's absolutely okay. And I account for a lot of that stuff during the conversation that we have ahead of time, but you really, in the way that I work and in the way in my practice, you can't do it wrong. You're not going to do it wrong. So it doesn't matter if your mind goes in and out. It doesn't matter if you're thinking about, the chocolate that's waiting for you when you're done. It's okay. It's okay, whatever. It's okay if you fall asleep in my sessions. There's some people that won't let that happen. In my sessions, I'm working with you where you are. And so however we do that is okay.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that you like throw in that little clause of bringing yourself out of hypnosis just for the people that think of those things. It reminds me, I used to like work at a tanning salon in high school, and people would always come in and be like, Rachel, what if I get stuck in there and the bulbs shatter and break, or something from like a Final Destination movie? And I'm like, that won't happen to you. Why are you even thinking of that? And I know that has nothing to do with really what we're saying, but yeah, people's minds go wherever they want to. But I love that you make people feel super safe and comfortable, and that you said there's no wrong way to do it. Um, you had mentioned before about like some of the benefits of hypnosis helping people with like fatigue and headaches, and physical ailments. Are there any other sort of like mental upgrades or like that you can list off that hypnosis could be good for?
There's so there's so much that hypnosis can be good for. It definitely is for a lot of those physical things, for a lot of the emotional things like anxiety, fears, obviously phobias, and don't ever be afraid to share like what you're afraid of or what your phobias. People have some really unique phobias out there. There's, people are afraid of buttons, of bananas, of all kinds of interesting things. And so don't ever be like, oh, I can't do it because they'll laugh at me. No, they won't. They're going to help you through that. And it's never anything that's shocking that would come that you say you need help with. So if you you ever did have a problem with someone, or if they gave you a feeling that made you uncomfortable, then don't work with that person. Go find somebody else, because that's not how it should fly. But mentally it's going to, again, kind of open the doors, and it's like a little bit of a spring cleaning. It goes in and it opens up space, because like one of the sessions that I do, kind of, it's called a negativity clearing, and you do the negativity clearing, and at the same time you go into that hard drive and you delete all the files that you no longer need, that are not useful to you, that are not serving. And so you allow that to happen, and it's almost like, oh my goodness, I had room to think. I have room to take on something else now. I'm not so overwhelmed or overloaded, or my brain is less busy, but just as active, if that makes sense. So it's not cluttered and going in the wrong directions. It's useful and really directed energy. And hypnosis can do that. And that's one of my favorite parts of it, is that it brings forth things like that clarity and direction and motivation. Those are wonderful things to be able to add to your life in
Yeah,
general.
wow, that sounds great. I think we could all benefit from hypnosis, is what it sounds like.
I think so. That's my
Yeah, in
opinion.
some way, shape, or form. So Laura, we're nearing the end of today's interview. But I know that I like to end all of these sessions with a quote. And you did put one here, or if you have a new one on your heart, if you could just leave us with some words of wisdom.
Ooh, I think that's the one I gave you probably is the one. It's about you don't have to see the whole staircase. You just take the first step.
Yeah,
Is that
that's
the
the
one that I
one that
put
you
on?
put on your little form.
I love that one.
I actually have that on a
Yeah, I love
letterboard.
that one because I love it because it's so true. And the thing is, when you take that first step, the next step, you know, lights up and allows that illumination to come into place. And even if you take a misstep, you're going to see that and be able to correct. So it's not about having the fear of, you still know where you're going. You still know where you want to end up. Even when you can't see it, you have an idea of, I want to be happy. I want to be successful. I want to be abundant. I want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. You have an idea of it. And so it doesn't really matter what all the steps are that are going to get you there. It matters that you're in motion, because if you're sitting around waiting for the universe to do all of the things for you, know that the universe is sitting around waiting for you to take that step.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. And so true.
It's going to oftentimes do a lot more and be in much more motion, I guess, or more bigger energy than we are. It can do a lot more than we can, but it's not going to be doing it if you're standing there waiting.
No, nothing just comes to us
It's waiting
sitting on
for
the
you.
couch.
So, think of it as like, again, I'm going to use a puppy reference again, but think of it as the dog that's, walking along with you. If you stop, and your dog's trained well, mine aren't, but it's going to stop and wait with you. And when you start again, it's going to start again. And it might go off in left field and go over here and come, but it's going to, wait for you. So don't wait. Don't wait. Take that first step. Do what's right.
Yay, that's a beautiful analogy. I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life, that little dog analogy. Okay, Laura, so where can people find you if they're interested in working with you or, want to hear more of you and your story?
They can find me on my website, and it's lauraordile.com, and it's spelled LAURAORDILE.com. And so it looks like Ordile, but it's pronounced Ordile. And I'm actually on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under that. And then I also have a free group on Facebook called The Change Gang. And I have a podcast of the same name, The Change Gang Podcast. So you can find me in all of those places.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Laura. I've really loved learning about intuition and the subconscious, and I can't wait for everyone to hear this episode. So go ahead and follow Laura if you're interested and book a session with her. She is obviously a true professional, and I'm going to tune into your podcast too. I got to buy that book, The Practical Intuition, and listen to your podcast. But thank you so much for being here. This has been really fun, and I'm so thrilled to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you for having me.
And I will see you all next Thursday on the Dangerously Divine podcast. Thank you. Bye.